7th generation of the Porsche 911, internally known as the 991, came out at the Frankfurt Motor Show way back in September of 2011. Like every generation 911 before it, the new 991 was longer, lower, and wider. The 991 received a mid-cycle refresh for the 2017 model year. That was also the first time that even base 911s had a turbocharged engine. 2017 also brought the updated GT3 with a 4-liter naturally aspirated flat 6 putting out 500 horsepower. And for the first time in the 991 generation, the GT3 had the coveted manual transmission. So this is it, the big dog, the 911 GT3, and a 4-liter flat 6 engine that sounds like that. Oh yeah! This particular car has the PCCBs, that's Porsche ceramic composite brakes, which way back in the day, when ceramic brakes started coming out, they're really annoying. Anytime you touch the brake, it'd be like, squeak! And people thought you had a really crappy brake system on your really expensive car, which was not the case at all. Ceramic composites have come a long way, offering better pedal feel, and in fact, some of the standard brakes on Porsches now squeak more than the ceramics do, which is hilarious. So this car is really all about one thing, that 4-liter flat 6 in the back. And oh, is it a gem. 500 horsepower, 339 pound-feet of torque, all driving just the rear wheels. There's no all-wheel drive, there's no turbos, nothing. It's you, a stick shift, and an engine. There might be some other stuff in there too. Like for example, on the GT3, Porsche has dynamic engine mounts. You've probably heard of magnetorheological dampers that are like magnetized pieces of metal in the shocks that, depending on the road conditions, react at fractions of a second, like 0.00000 fractions of a second. Porsche put those on the engine. So there's a soft and a hard engine mount. So if you're driving along casually, the engine doesn't, lock in with the car. If you're driving on a racetrack, it's totally locked in and almost becomes part of the chassis. That's some pretty serious technology. Another thing they have on the GT3 is adjustable suspension. Right now, I'm on one of the worst roads in this area. It's not really beating me up. The camera will probably prove otherwise because I'm probably bobbing and weaving and shaking, but there's a button down here I can push to firm up the suspension. And yeah, quite a discernible difference. It's like a kidney punch. So we'll go ahead and soften that up again. Some other fun buttons down here behind the manual transmission are traction control off and stability control and traction control off. So that's kind of fun if you really want to whip that back end around, as 911s want to do. It's right over 3,000 RPM that extra engine sound drops in. Now there is another button over here for your sport exhaust. So I'm going to turn that off. And that is over 3,000 RPMs. And you notice it doesn't quite have that deep bass resonance. It still has wonderful flat 6 Porsche beautiful melodious sound, but it doesn't quite have that guttural roar that you want. So anytime you get in a GT3, if you own one, if you ever get a chance to drive one, please make sure that you hit that button right away. So when the 991 came out, Porsche put in rear axle steering. So if you're going slow, the rear wheels will turn opposite of the front wheels. And if you're going fast, it turns in conjunction with the front wheels. It effectively shortens the wheelbase of the car without actually shortening the wheelbase of the car. Does it work? Absolutely. It's been working for years. Sort of the entry-level track model for the 911. So that's why Porsche does all of these different things to the suspension and the engine to really make this car track worthy. And a lot of GT3 owners will track their car. And when the 991 first came out, way back in 2011, and the GT3 shortly thereafter, you could only get it with a PDK, which meant you couldn't screw up shifting like I just did. Porsche's PDK is fantastic. Honestly, if I owned this car and was going to the track every day or every weekend, I'd probably want the PDK. It's going to shift better than me, it's going to shift faster than me, so my track times will be quicker. But you lose a serious sense of involvement when you have that PDK, in my opinion. And I don't think I'm alone in that, because when the 0.2 model came out, Porsche offered a manual transmission once again in the GT3, and sales skyrocketed. Not that it was hard to sell a GT3 in the first place, but if you look on the secondary market, manual transmission cars actually demand more money than PDK cars. Ferrari, are you listening? How about you, Lamborghini? Or McLaren? Thank you, Porsche, for at least listening to your owners and your aspirational owners to offer what they want. Some other fun things that they have under the skin. Porsche has torque vectoring in the 991 GT3. What's interesting is that they only have torque vectoring if you have the PDK. I'm not sure why. That's just the way things are. Maybe because they figure with the stick shift, you're going to be playing a little bit too much with that back end. I don't know. Boy, is it fun to play with. Singing to the heavens. Oh, man, that sounds good. I mean, this engine really is a work of art. And as far as track worthiness, this car comes with monster tires, monster wheels, monster brakes. Porsche even goes so far as to allow you to change toe angle, camber, and the roll bars, depending on the track that you're on. It's pretty amazing. This car really is meant for the track. And speaking of that, why don't we take it to one of our favorite places in the world, Road America, and we'll let Rick and Brian check it out on the track and see how it does there.
All right, here we are, the Porsche 911 GT3, 991.2 to be specific. This thing is raw and emotional, loud, and just an overwhelming amount of sensation that comes through everything you want it to. The steering wheel, the gear shift, the engine sounds phenomenal. It has a rip-roaring flat six snarl that when you're on full throttle, there's an induction noise that makes you feel like you're in a race car. It feels like a race car in a way that almost no other car does. Wow! It is just epic. What a fun car to drive. The capabilities of it are, oh man, they are so high. Man, is it sure-footed. The suspension, the grip, it goes where you point it. And it does it with an agility. It doesn't feel like a real large car. I think the four-wheel steering helps with that. The brakes are so reassuring that they'll stop you from whatever speed you happen to be going at. What a complete package. This GT3, especially the 991.2, is just a remarkable car.
This right here is an epic day for me. I am not like my cohorts Porschephile. I'm what you might call a Porsche idiot. I have never owned a Porsche in my life. In fact, think of any three-digit number starting in 9, and I can guarantee you I have not owned that model of Porsche. I've never even driven a 911, any 911, any vintage, ever. But today, I have the opportunity to drive what might be arguably the coolest 911 ever produced so far. Obviously, the car we're driving today has the 6-speed manual, and I am a devout 3-pedal guy. Now, I've not had a chance to drive this car very many miles, so you're getting pretty much my first impressions, and my first impressions are very, very good. This is a work of art. This is fabulous. We're at one of the greatest tracks on the planet, Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, which is amazing and a wonderful opportunity. Unfortunately, because there are no emergency workers here or corner workers, etc., we do have to keep our speeds in check. So I would love to be able to wring this thing out and see how amazingly it can handle corners, but I can guarantee you from the bit that I have driven it, it sticks like glue. How often have you heard that? But it does. It's adhered to the road. It's sucked to the core of the earth. My apologies to you that I can't wring this thing out, but trust me, it is phenomenal. And this engine, oh, did you hear that? That was about 6,000 RPM. The amazing thing with this engine is that it revs to 9,000 RPM. And even when you can't rev it out to 9,000 RPM, 5,000 RPM sounds amazing. This is just, it's just starting to get happy at about 7,000 RPM. Do you hear that? That's 6,000 RPM. I'm only 2/3 of the way to redline. 6,000 RPM. This is 5,000 RPM. Oh, there's so much instantaneous torque there, even though it's not turbocharged. The throttle response is immediate and totally predictable. Okay, that was 8,000 RPM. The ride amazes me. For a car that handles as well as this does, puts the power to the pavement as well as this does, corners as well as this does, I would expect to be beaten up, and I'm just not. Okay, enough oohs and ahs. This is a fabulous car.
Is this a lovely car to revel in that sound. It feels like something really special. And it is. Someone might ask, how livable is a track car for daily use? Well, quite good in here. It has an auto blip. If you keep it in sport mode, then it'll do the auto blipping shift for you. It's got lots of torque down low, so it's easy to drive around. It's easy to see out of the car. No major blind spots like some of those really low cars. Now, a GT3 doesn't have rear seats like most 911s. They get removed for weight-saving purposes. I don't know if that's really all that useful. I'd actually prefer that there were rear seats, or as an option at least, because the car is very useful, and having the seats gone doesn't open up all that much space for any extra utility. I don't think it saves that much weight either. Like any Porsche, the fit and finish of the car is beautiful. Every stitch and panel fits with a certain tightness and precision. Even though this is a track car with a firm suspension, I don't hear creaks or rattles or groans. It's really well put together. That precision engineering that Porsche is known for. It feels like it's gonna last a long time. And that's what you want in a car like this, especially since there's a good chance cars like this, they're just not gonna be made in the future with this amazing zinging to 9,000 RPM flat six motorsport derived engine. I think I'd have this car in my garage. It'd be fun just to look at, like a little piece of art from Germany. And then you fire it up, get on that gas, hear that induction noise, turn in, feel the four-wheel steer, the grip, and then lay on it. Wow. If that's not a race car sound, I don't know what is. This is a race car for the road that I just give kudos to Porsche for making an engine that sounds like that, that's road legal. Man, what an awesome car.
I can just say this 911 is fantastic. If you get a chance to drive one, do it. Amazing, amazing car. I'm happy. This was an epic day for me. Oh my goodness.